Hello. Welcome to I Am Wisdom with your host, Katrina Kavanagh. I Am Wisdom is all about the connection between mind work and energy work, spirituality, and finding easy, everyday ways to heal your life. Katrina Kavanagh is a qualified therapist and one of Australia's leading intuitives and spirituality coaches. Katrina will be taking your calls and bringing you some special guests. Settle in, relax, and enjoy the healing on I Am Wisdom with Katrina Kavanagh on Om Times Radio.
Hi, you're listening to I Am Wisdom with Katrina Kavanagh. So welcome to the show. Here in Australia, it's now the beginning of autumn. So we've made the transition across from summer to autumn. Now, autumn and spring are two of my most favourite seasons. I love them. I used to live in a country town called Bathurst, which is in rural area, just a few hours west of Sydney. And I loved that area. I loved it because in the autumn, all the leaves would turn in their colour, and they would be beautiful gold shades of gold and red, and it was just absolutely beautiful. So now I live in a coastal area, so I don't get to see too many trees of that, too many trees that turn in that way. The odd one here and there, but it's just not quite the same as having a street lined with those trees and just really, really enjoying the magnificent colours that nature can give us. Welcome to the show today. Today we're going to be talking about the difference between love and nurture. They're two words that are used. Certainly, love is used all the time, and what I'm going to talk to you about is how, when we say we want someone to love us, we're actually saying we want someone to nurture us. Now, for the last 22 years, I've been working as a therapist in the mainstream sector, and that work has predominantly been working as a therapist with relationships, family work, family therapy, individuals, of course, and working across the area of relationships, grief, and I would say trauma as well. So that experience over the last 22 years has shown me a lot. And the concept that I'm going to be talking to you today about is not something that I actually learnt in either of my two university degrees, nor in the I guess even from the mainstream sector, from any of my readings. I've read some of John Gottman's books. His books are fantastic on relationships and couple work. But the concept I've got for you today is something that was shared with me many, many, many years ago when I was doing some of my own personal work. And this person she was actually from the church. She was not properly, she wasn't qualified therapist at all, but her and I used to have long conversations about relationships and how they work, and her insights were absolutely stunning. And I think truly, while she would describe her insights as coming from God, I would describe them as coming from this great, amazing source. And really, who cares what we call it? It's this amazing, the universal mind, consciousness, source, God, higher power. It's, really, we're just describing this experience of energy that really does give those who are open to it lots of information about how to experience themselves in the best and possible way. So I liked her perspective. She shared this with me. She was a wonderful woman who was very helpful to me at a period of time in my life. And we talk about relationships, and she used to always say to me, Katrina, it's not really, we don't really want people to love us. We want people to nurture us. And there's a very big difference. I've taken that concept and I've brought it forward, fast forward, years later to now. And what I've done is I've developed that concept in a much more, just interpret it into the way I understand it, and I use it every time I work with a couple now, because what happens is when a couple understands that when they're saying, he's just not loving me, or she doesn't understand, or she's not giving me this, or he's not, all the usual list of things, what they're not actually understanding is that what they're really wanting that person to do, they're not wanting them to love them more, they're wanting them to nurture them more. So as a therapist sitting with couples, I've heard the usual list of complaints. So things like, you would all relate to this. I want him to listen. You know, why can't we just put the past behind us? That's a very common one. I can't forgive him or her. He never tells me that he loves me. I want more sex. We don't have enough sex in our relationship. I want him to talk more about his feelings. I want him to let me talk more about my feelings. I don't feel heard by her. It doesn't matter what I do, it's just never good enough. And ultimately and sadly, we get to the place where people sit there and say, look, I don't know if I want to be in this relationship or this marriage anymore. And for me, the fact that they're sitting in front of me in a therapy room means that there's part of them that actually wants to be there. Even within the couple, you'll often find one that really wants to be there, usually the one that's made the appointment. And interestingly enough, that is often the males in my situation, but sometimes the females. Um, and but the other person would say, well, I'm coming along because I've got to get this one last shot, or I'm trying to keep her happy, or really I've come along to work out whether we need to separate, or all that kind of stuff. So either way, I trust that the reason that they're physically present in the room with me is that they want to be there on some level, either consciously or unconsciously. And they want to resolve the relationship to the point where, whether it's being in the relationship moving forward, or if there are children involved, where they might be co-parenting, either way, I always say to them, let's not worry, we may get to either one of those outcomes. But before we do that, if we just do some work on some of these areas, then whichever way it turns out, the relationship is going to be more healthy. Whether you're co-parenting in a healthier way, or whether you're actually together remaining in the relationship, it's going to be more healthy. So let's go back to the beginning of the difference between love and nurture. And let me explain to you why I much prefer the word nurture to the word love. I would have to say, if you look at it, there are a few people, I'm not sure where they are, but I'm sure there's some out there, but there's a few people who, when they were growing up as children, they actually experienced a positive, loving, consistent, everlasting presence from their parents. Their parents were able to care for them, provide a nurturing environment, be able to be emotionally connected. And I shouldn't be so cynical. Of course, there are many, many people who are doing that. I mean, I'm doing that at the moment with my children, as is my husband. So there are many, many people who did experience that way of connecting with their parents. And so for them, when they talk about love, they know the true meaning of the word, because they know that it's a giving and receiving equally. It's a very balanced experience. It's where you feel and the other person feels a sense of warmth, a sense of compassion. It's creating a place where there is a soft landing, for us to come home to. So we all go out into the world and we experience life and people, but we're able to come home to a soft place where you can be yourself, you can talk about the worries of the day, and you've got a really caring, receptive audience. Not all the time, and life is never perfect, but at least you have a little bit of a caring audience. There's people who listen and they care and they really want the best for you. So I really feel that when you've had that experience growing up, then for you, sure, go ahead, use the words love, because you do know the true meaning of the word. For those of us who didn't experience that, who had parents who may have, quote unquote, loved the children, and we'll explain more about that anyway, but they just didn't know how to nurture the children. So they may have, for example, provided all the physical things. You may have enough money, they may have it so they've got the material possessions, house, cars, clothes, everything the children can want, but yet they're unable to have that emotional connection. And I have to say that for the clients that I work with, where this has been their experience, where they have experienced what looks like from the outside as a regular, and God forbid I use the word normal, but normal family, to those people, when I'm working therapeutically with them, when we're doing some therapy together, they are the ones that are sometimes the trickiest to get themselves to relax and actually acknowledge this concept, because they know something's wrong, they don't feel right, but really they'll say, but we had such a great childhood, mum and dad worked really hard and they really really loved us. Yet in their own self and in their own life, they notice a gap. they notice the emptiness, and they can't understand why. So they come to me because maybe they've engaged in drugs and alcohol. Maybe they've gotten involved in relationships that are full of domestic violence, or perhaps they're just finding it really hard to make good decisions in their life, and they're just struggling with having some direction themselves. And what's interesting for those people, as I explain this and unpack them, and I unpack it all, as I explain the emotional needs of children from the moment they're born, they do have a few aha moments, and they realize that okay, mum and dad did the best they could. They gave us what they gave us, but the truth of it is, I didn't feel there was an emotional connection with my parents, right? So for those people, we have to work a little bit harder. For other people where it's really obvious, where perhaps they lived in poverty, perhaps there was never any time, perhaps one parent had died, passed away, or was incarcerated in jail. Or had left, the parents had separated and had no contact. Perhaps they had a tricky relationship where, a parent was extremely critical, verbally abusive, emotionally difficult, physically abusive. Perhaps, like I said, there may have been mental health issues or drug and alcohol issues within the parents' experience. So for those people, it's a lot easier for them to understand the concept I'm about to talk to you about, which is all about the social perception, which is interesting. So for those people, I don't have to work through the layer of social perception that I do with the other people. We're coming up for a break soon. I'm going to be continuing this conversation. Here's my voice, there it is. I'm going to be continuing this conversation with you. I'm going to be talking with you about the difference between love and nurture, and I'm going to give you a few ideas that you may be able to use in your own life, in your relationship with yourself, and certainly in your love relationships and family and friendships, that may just make the difference to how you experience your relationships. You're listening to I Am Wisdom. I am Katrina Kavanagh, and we're coming up for a break. And I will talk to you soon. Stay listening. Bye-bye.
Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Hi, this is Sylvia Henderson, intuitive life coach and energy healer. Are you ready to elevate and rise way above your normal? Be sure to listen to my show, Intuitive Transformations, on Om Times Radio, Sunday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern. Get the inspiration you need to transform your life.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. Om Times Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single Om Times endeavor. Host your show with Om Times Radio Network. Simone Milasas would like you to know that business can be fun, which is why she wrote the book, Joy of Business. What if you could have the joy of business rather than the stress and struggle? Most of the time, the only thing stopping you from a thriving business is you. In the Joy of Business book, Simone gives you access consciousness tools and pragmatic ways to get out of your own way and to create the business, life, and living you know is possible and beyond what this reality says is achievable. Business is joy. It's creation. It's generative. It can be the adventure of living. You can purchase your copy of the book through Amazon or Joy of Business website, www.accessjoyofbusiness.com.
The Laying On of Hands Healing Radio Show is about treating the whole person, mind, body, and spirit. Join me, Charles Smith, as I share life-balancing measures such as nutrition and spiritual practices to help you take charge of your own health and wellness every Thursday at 7 p.m. on Om Times Radio.
The future of Internet radio is here. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Hello, it's Katrina Kavanagh here, and you're listening to I Am Wisdom. I hope so far you're enjoying the show, and because today's show is a topic that's very dear to my heart. The difference between love and nurture when you come to relationships. So if you've been listening so far, what I've been talking about is how there is a difference. And I wanted to talk about the work that I do as a mainstream therapist with couples. Now, I do relationship work in two different ways. I have people that come to me and they're not really aware of this side of the intuitive side of my life. So they come through usually through a referral from a doctor down here in Australia. And for those people, I give them completely mainstream therapy. Relationship therapy. Sometimes it's relationship therapy, sometimes it's relationship coaching. Okay, because truly some people just, and oftentimes it's a combination of both, really. When I have a couple, and then I have some other couples who, they come to me, they know that I'm intuitive. I can get that out then. They know that I am intuitive. They know of me through, the media stuff that I do here in Australia. And so they come to me with a perception that they will have in their consultation with me, both my work as my knowledge and understanding as a mainstream therapist in relationships, but also that I might use my intuition as well. And I have to say that I do really enjoy those sessions. I enjoy all my work with people there. I tell you what, we laugh a lot in my relationship therapy sessions, as in many others in my individual work too. Wherever I can, somehow I manage to squeeze some form of laughter in there. I think it's my nature and it's the way I interact with some people. So therapy doesn't always have to be very serious. It can be, there's room for it to be a bit light and a bit fun. And sometimes we just end up laughing at, the situation as it is. So with the greatest respect and, to the sacredness of the moment. So whether a couple comes to me from mainstream therapy or whether they come to me, looking for the combination of mainstream but also the intuitive aspect as well, what happens is that I'm really mindful that when a couple decide to come and get help, it is a really unique and sacred time. So I'll say that again. When a couple comes to get some help, when they walk into the therapy room and sit down together, it is a really unique and sacred time. And it's a time when the relationship is both fragile, yet also really open and ready for change. So when you think about it that way, it's a beautiful, beautiful time. And there's certain energy that comes into the room when you've got two people who want change, may not know how to get it, but they just know that something needs to be different. And they've made the decision and they've invested the energy and their resources to come and sit with a third person, and in that case it's me, and open their hearts a little and more as you go along, but they're certainly there willing to really look at what's going on for themselves and in the relationship. I have to say to you, I can't really find a word to describe what that's like for me. I could use the word I feel honoured, although I'm mindful that word is a little bit overused sometimes. But I do feel honoured. I do feel I feel honoured, but I feel the responsibility of that moment too. And I can handle that responsibility. I'm okay to sit with that responsibility because it's what I've been doing for 22 years. And I just absolutely, every single time, set the intention within myself to be of service to those people. And essentially from that point forward, I allow the rest to flow, and it does. I mean, I have some structure sometimes and I bring in lots of information, but I just allow it to flow. And what we find is that people experience insights. They experience insights as individuals. They experience insights as couples. And it's really profound, the changes that can take place. Now, I also do relationship therapy with clients overseas. So I do that work via Skype. And also I do a lot of relationship work with people individually. So sometimes we might be in a situation where we're in a relationship and for whatever reason the other person either doesn't want to or cannot attend. And I do a lot of work with individuals because what we know, and if you kind of consider it as two cogs in a wheel, we know that they're turning, as the teeth move in and out with each other, they're turning at a certain rhythm, aren't they? At a certain pace. And if just one of those cogs changes the way or the speed that it's moving, it has an impact on the other cog, right? So what I know from therapy is that if one person starts to shift and change, that it just is that of the fact that it's a system, that the rest of the system is affected by that change. And so a lot of effective work can be done in relationships with just one person there. And people find that really hard to believe. I wouldn't have believed it years ago, but it's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. And the change that can take place can be quite profound. So when I have a couple sitting with me, I feel very blessed and very privileged to be there, and it's such a responsibility, but I do love it. It's a beautiful experience when you see couples rise to the challenge and emerge really afresh from a few rounds of therapy, because what happens is that a few sessions of therapy, I should say, because what actually happens is that they come out with a new sense of renewal and strength in the new knowledge of both who they are as individuals and as a couple. And like I said, whether it's to then go on and co-parent, although I have to say, I say that, but I haven't had many or any couples go on to co-parent. They've all remained together. But anyway, I have to say that because we have to hold this as a possibility for some people, right? And so whether it's that or whether it's they co-parent, they can move forward then in a way that's kind to each other and themselves. That's the best way of describing it, right? That's nurturing to each other and themselves. So let me tell you the number one thing that I say to clients and my people that I work with, that I get them to do pretty much from the very first session, usually, depending on how the first session goes. I say to my clients, I want you, and this is the magic formula, this very simple tool I'm about to give you now. The magic formula is, this is life-changing, it's powerful, it changes the way you perceive yourself, it changes the way you perceive the relationship, it changes everything. I say to my couples and to my individuals, I want you to stop saying I love you. Right? Sounds pretty controversial, doesn't it? I want you to stop saying I love you, and I want you to start saying I will nurture you. I'm going to say that again just so we really get it in. I want you to stop saying that I love you to each other and to yourself, right? I want you to start saying I will nurture you to each other and to yourself. And let me explain why. The word love, as I started to talk about before the break, the word love for many people is tainted as an experience of being quite toxic. So if in your childhood you've experienced parents who may have loved you but it was a bit tricky, where there's been emotional abandonment, or there may have been, so remember, they may be physically present and all might look okay on the outside, but internally you know that there wasn't a connection, okay? Or it was more obvious, like the example I gave you, where there's lots of violence, you're living in poverty, not that poverty equates to violence, but sometimes. And, there's, like I said, domestic violence, or there might be drug and alcohol use, or there might be mental health issues, or whatever it is. The parents are just so busy that they're not connecting, okay? And the only way they connect sometimes is through abusive practices. So for those, if you look at those two scenarios and you look at the child's first experience of what love is, it's toxic, it's hurtful. It means that to be loved by someone, that other person will hurt you, that person will hurt you, that they love you but they hurt you, but that the process of being loved by another means that you get hurt. I've said that several times over because I really want that to go in. Because I know that when that was described and explained to me, that was one of the greatest revelations I've had in my life. Okay? Because if you think about it, if you're a child growing up in that experience, and I know this from my own life, because my own life is that I have had parents who may have loved me, but they certainly didn't know how to love me well, using this example. And they may have been able to nurture aspects of me, but they didn't really know how to nurture me fully. Okay? So what that meant was I grew up thinking that love meant toxic. Of course, I wasn't conscious. This does not sit in our conscious minds until we are aware. But when I look over my history of relationships up until I had this awareness, what I noticed really for sure and certain was every single relationship I got involved in, that person hurt me. They hurt me by leaving me, or they hurt me by staying and being quite cruel. Okay, so this was a huge insight to me, because and I remember sitting and crying, and being so sad and thinking, I just want someone to love me. I just want someone to love me. And what I didn't realize then was what I really wanted to say, what I need to say was, I just want someone to nurture me. If you've had that experience growing up, I want you to now turn and have a look at your love relationship. And also your romantic relationship, your partnership. And I want you to have a look at just how toxic it is. Okay, this is not about whether the person's well-meaning. No, 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 no. It doesn't matter. But it just means that they are just giving you love in the way they've been taught love is, as well. And what's amazing about all this is that it all can be shifted. It all can be shifted, and it's powerful when you do it. So that's why I say, for the very first step, when I've got a couple in here in my room with me, or an individual, and what's clear to me is the way that they know how to have a relationship is to hurt and be toxic, to be disconnected, or when they are connected, it's tumultuous, it's difficult, it's complex, it's heavy, there's drama involved. When I've got that couple sitting in front of me, I know pretty much sure and certain that they have had experiences growing up where their first love experience with their parents has had some toxicity to it, some abandonment, some trickiness, some hurt. So I say to my couples, lay that down, because when you say I love you, you are really saying I toxic you, I hurt you, because that's what you know the meaning of that word to be. Okay, everyone looks a bit startled at first, but after they think about it and I explain this to them, they understand. Okay, and they go, yes, that's right. That's right, of course. Oh, goodness me. So what I do is I give those couples homework and I'm not saying we never say, that they never say they love each other again, but we have to reframe and re-educate what the word love really means. We need to change the way that person connects both intellectually and energetically to the concept of love. So until that time comes, I ask them to lay down, just for a time, the words I love you, or I want you to love me. We're coming up for a break. When we come back from the break, I'm going to finish my conversation about nurture and love. I'm going to be doing some consultations as well for Susan and Leanne, and we may even fit in a little meditation. We'll see how we go. Stay with me. You're listening to I Am Wisdom.
Om Times Radio, IOM FM.
Radio Namaste leads you down the yellow brick road into portals of consciousness with the blue collar goddess as your host. Interviews with humans who could be famous or just popular, and answers to everything are on the agenda. Tune into Om Times Radio and drop in on Thursdays at 3 Eastern. It's a different brand of enlightenment.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of Om Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Om Times. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
The truth is, you can't change the world if you're broke. I know, I've tried. Isn't it time you turned your life's calling into a profitable, freedom-based business? I'm Michelle Barr. Join me every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern for Sacred Success.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Hi, it's Katrina Kavanagh here, and you're listening to I Am Wisdom. On today's show, we're talking about the difference between the word love and the word nurture. And I'm talking to you about this from the perspective of my years of work for the last 22 years as a relationship therapist. Well, I've been a therapist across a number of areas, but the area I'm talking about now is relationships. So just before the break, I started talking about how I say to couples, I want you to stop saying, just for a period of time, just few months, okay, I want you to lay down the words I love you. Just pop them over in the corner there somewhere, okay? And instead what I'm wanting you to say to each other is, I will nurture you. Now, of course, it's a bit weird and awkward at first, okay? It's quite hysterical saying to your partner, I will nurture you. Gee, I nurture you. Gee, you know, what I'm really needing from you right now is a bit of nurturing. I really want you to show me that you nurture me. You know, all of these different ways of using the word nurture instead of love. But what you can see I'm doing is I'm changing the tone of the interaction between the two people. If you think about the word love, and we already acknowledge that for many people unconsciously, they connect the word love with being hurt, with a toxic experience, okay? For them, when they use the word love, the vibration of that word for them in the context of a relationship holds, unbeknownst to them, that vibration of hurt and toxicity and difficulty and complexity and challenge and all that kind of stuff. Yet the word nurture is clear. The word nurture holds its own pure vibration. You can't really misunderstand the word nurture. Okay, you can't really misunderstand it. There's, for me, my understanding when I speak to my spiritual friends and my spiritual team, what they tell me is the word nurture. When you look at the word and when you say that word, the softness that you feel, the softness and the compassion and the kindness and the giving and the giving that you experience when you say and feel the word nurture, okay, is beautiful. And if you think about it, when we're feeling unloved and unlovable, what we're really wanting is we're wanting someone to nurture us. So rather than feeling, for those that are single, those of you thinking, running around saying, I want someone to love me, I would love to invite you to also change that to say, I want someone to nurture me. Okay, because by the very act of saying, I want someone to nurture me, you are absolutely shifting instantly the vibration of what you will receive. You will receive, therefore, someone who is kind and caring and connected. You will receive someone who wishes to give to you across many levels. And you will experience them connecting with you in a way that is meaningful. For those of us who are individuals, which is, I just realised what I said, that sounds funny, doesn't it? Sorry, for those of us who are individuals, given that we're all individuals, so for all of us, when we're thinking about wanting to feel a greater sense of self-love, okay, now I've talked to you before about the concept of being aware that I am love or I am nurture, that, you know, the fourth energetic dimension of yourself, that you are that. But when you're in the conscious state of, you know, thinking, you know, I would like to experience a more positive relationship with myself, okay, what I would invite you to say, and there are still people out there that say, I want to learn to love myself, and I say to them, no, what this is about is, what I would invite you to do is to change that and say, I want to learn to nurture myself. Okay, I want to nurture myself. I want to love myself. I want to nurture myself, because the love component in its purest form, in the way that Spirit intended it to be, is naturally within you anyway. Okay, it is part of your powerful spirit, as we've referred to before. But the word nurture is more of the conscious experience that we're talking about now. Okay, so I also invite individuals to shift their thinking and reframe it to understand that you're not really wanting to learn to love yourself. You're actually wanting to, first of all, you are love, but beyond that, it's about taking care of yourself. It's about nurturing yourself. Okay, so what's amazing is, and I'm sure you can appreciate from what I'm saying already, the concept, if you think about applying this concept into your life, it is life-changing. And what's amazing is I get couples, and I'm going to ask any of you who are in a relationship right now to take some time after the show, and when you have a moment, you may not be till later on in the evening, and sit down quietly and really write a list of ways that you would like to nurture yourself, ways that you would like to nurture someone else in your life, and in your love relationship or in your friendship or in your family relationship, how you would like to experience that relationship to be more nurturing. What kinds of things could you be doing and saying and participating in with your partner, for example, to nurture your partner? Because when I have a couple sitting there and I say to them, okay, let's write a list of then, we can work with around love language and all that sort of stuff. But if I sit down and say to people, okay, well, let's write a list of all the ways that you can let the other person know that you love them. Okay. Now, I've done this several times before prior to using this concept, and there's usually a fairly large stony silence on the part of one of the participants, usually one of the couples, and then the other person jumps in and gives examples. That's usually what happens. Yet when I say to someone or the couple, certainly after I've given the information about what nurturing means, and I say, well, okay, what are some ways that you could nurture your partner? Straight away, that's easy. I can do this, I can say that. I can do this, we can do this together. We could. So there's a long list. And if I said to you today, what are some ways that you could nurture yourself? Straight away, we'd be thinking of things like, okay, I'm going to give my body more water. I'm going to sit and have a cup of tea and have a break. I'm going to spend good time with some family and friends that I enjoy. I'm going to eat yummy food. The list is endless. I'm going to put myself go for a walk along the beach or touch the planet today. So these are the ways that we can nurture ourselves. Now, the more critical than that are, what are the words that you could be saying to yourself and to your partner that represent the concept of nurturing yourself and your other person? So straight away, we shift from we shift from finding that really challenging to find the words to, okay, if I'm being nurturing to myself, then I'm saying, good on you, Katrina. Good on you, Katrina. You've done really well with that. Or, Katrina, it's okay to make that mistake. This is me talking to myself, just in case you're wondering. It's okay to make that mistake because, hey, it happens, and give yourself that internal hug because that's what happens in life. Sometimes, we fall over. And you can see how that's really nurturing. Yet if I was sitting here thinking, what are some words I could say to myself that communicate to me that I love myself? I can stand in front of the mirror and do some really brilliant mirror work. And I'm a fan of that at times. It has its place. And to stand there in front of the mirror and say, Katrina, I love you. Well, today I could do it easy, but years ago I couldn't, okay? And so if that's a struggle for you, but if you stand in front of the mirror and you look at yourself deep in your eyes, just hold it for a second and say, Katrina, I nurture you, or whatever your name is, I nurture you. I nurture you. I will do all I can to nurture you, mind, body, soul. I will nurture you. That's easier, don't you think? I want you to go and try that because it is easier. You'll see what I mean. You'll see what I mean. So I hope that that's been helpful because I have to say that when I work with my relationship in couple work, it makes a very big difference. Now, what happens going on from then in the subsequent sessions is we do hear about what that's been like a little bit, and then what I'm assuming is that that's going on in the background, and then from there that creates, as you can imagine, a beautiful platform to then do the rest of the tricky work, to get into the nitty-gritty of what are the dynamics that are contributing to the relationship difficulties or challenges or unhappiness, okay? But always in the background, we've got couples saying to each other, I nurture you, and how can I nurture you? And they're engaging in a daily practice of showing the other person that they want to nurture them. Okay, so it becomes one of the healing keys in the relationship work that I do. So I just to remind you, I love this is one of the areas that I love the most. But I have to say, I'm always saying that I love this the most. I love that the most. Truly overall, I'm just so grateful to be of service and be with people and help them because I just know what's possible. And I know what's possible from my own lived experience, and I know what's possible from watching other people's lives as well, my clients, for example. And I've seen the potential for change that we all have, and it's infinite, okay? So I know for sure and certain that if you're listening to this show right now and you're experiencing difficulty in your relationship, I know that can be different. I know that you can feel differently within it, okay? I know that if you're sitting listening to this show and you're feeling unhappiness within yourself, I know that can be different. Okay, I know that definitely can be different. So that's why I do the work that I do. What I'm wanting to tell people is just to remind you that I do relationship work, both mainstream and also mainstream with add a dash of intuition. And how I should explain how that works intuitively is, well, there's lots of ways it works, but essentially when I'm in the beginning stages of relationship work, what I find is I'll be sitting with a couple and it just comes to me intuitively, what are the issues? We're talking to the husband and he'll be describing different things in his childhood and I'll be saying, well, I think, so what, and I'll get a flash, ask him about what happened at the age of 9. And so I'll say to him, I'm just curious about what's happening for you around the age of 9 or 10, and then he'll sit and think, and he'll say, I was living here, I was living there, I was doing this, and then we'll get to the bottom of something that was a critical point for him in his childhood. Usually critical points in childhood are where we make decisions about whether we are lovable or unlovable, whether the world is safe or unsafe. And we, often at that point, we pick up a coping strategy that works to get us through childhood. For example, internalizing and never saying a word, or speaking, always reaching out to other people, or engaging in, that person will never hurt me again. I will always protect myself no matter what. And so we become aggressive or whatever. So usually they're the critical points. We develop a coping strategy, and it works to get us through childhood. But it doesn't work when we get into adult relationships. So, that's how I use my intuition. So I offer these sessions, as I said, I offer these sessions and I love doing this work. And because we're talking about love and couple relationship work, today I'm offering a special offer for people who come to me from this show, who would like to do some couple work or relationship work, either as an individual or as a couple. And again, I offer this service both within Australia and overseas as well, via Skype. And in person if you live in my local area, which is the Wollongong area, and I often pop up to Sydney as well. So if you are wanting to access that service of mine, then I would like to offer you a beautiful special deal where for the life of our sessions together, you can receive a 25% discount. Okay. And that's if you come to me as a first client as a result of this show. Okay. You're listening to I Am Wisdom. This is Katrina Kavanagh, and after the break, I'm going to be offering some intuitive consults to Susan and Leanne, and I'm looking.
Expand your soul. Om Times Radio, IOM FM. Join Elliot Jolish, the business therapist, each Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern for the Elliot Jolish Hour, as he interviews business experts on your behalf. And you're invited to email your business questions to questions@ecjgroup.com for answers, live, on air every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on the Elliot Jolish Hour. Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. Om Times Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single Om Times endeavor. Host your show with Om Times Radio Network. Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Elia, in the circle on Sunday 2 p.m. Eastern as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on Om Times Radio.
Hello, it's Katrina Kavanagh here, and you're listening to I Am Wisdom. I hope you've enjoyed the content of today's show. I mean, for me, the difference between saying I love you and saying I nurture you, the difference between conceptualizing love versus nurturing your relationship is quite profound. And the changes that can take place once you start incorporating this change into your relationship of using the word nurture instead of love, they're really amazing. It's quite profound. Because the last thing that I would add to that is I want you to think about what happens when, if you've grown up in a situation where you've experienced hurt a lot, and you do associate, as we talked about, the word love with hurting, then you have to think about every single time the person says, I love you. Okay, or you first get into a relationship and they say, I love you. And of course you feel exhilarated and all that kind of thing. But on some level, there's some part of you that knows, unconsciously, that this is how it will be, that the difficulties in the relationship are there and will be coming. And so what happens then on a brain level, on a physical level, on a brain level, as well as a energetic level as well, we begin to engage in our relationship dance, the dance that we do to keep ourselves safe. Okay, we begin to, because you've got to think about it, your body and your brain and the energy that you are, when someone says I love you, is hearing I hurt you, I will hurt you. Okay, sounds a bit out there, but it's true. I will hurt you. So of course your body goes into defense mode and you engage in your dance. And so the two of you are engaging in a tricky little dance that you do together, and we call it relationships, and it goes along fine for a while until it doesn't. And that's often what brings people into my room and to sit with me for therapy. So what's amazing about that is, with that simple shift of changing, taking the word love out of the equation just for now, not forever, just for now, okay, you will find that the changes that you experience are pretty muchly, you'll notice an instant shift energetically, and then over time, this creates a platform for further healing to take place through our therapy work, okay? So I hope you've enjoyed that show. The show so far. It's a topic that's very dear to my heart. I love this work. Couple work is something that I find, there's not one therapy session I have with a couple that I leave thinking, that I leave feeling heavier in any way. It's just profound and amazing work. And to see two people who are invested in making those kind of changes, well, it's beautiful. Okay, so right now we're going to finish our show today with two things, which is two intuitive consults. And I've got two questions here. I've got Susan P. And Susan, you've been on my Facebook page, facebook.com/Katrina Kavanagh, Cavaноugh. And you've been on there and you've said to me, hello, why can't I listen to my heart or my inner voice? I can't stop thinking about my relationship that ended over a year ago, and another man, John, came into my life ready to commit and I pushed him away. But I'm confused if he was right for me. I'm having difficulty moving on. Thank you, Katrina. So Susan, I'm just going to have a little tune in here. Taking deep breaths just to shift gears a bit from thinking to an intuition. Susan, I can feel your confusion, and straight away I would really like to have a rest. I can feel the anxiety that's resting in your body. And I don't know if you've been unwell, but I feel like I feel a bit unwell, like a little bit nauseous or something. So you maybe have just experiencing some health issues, nothing major, but I just feel the nausea, like I want to be sick or something. Anyway, let's get to your question. I want you to know that the fact that you feel you can't hear your heart or inner voice is actually not because your heart's messages and your inner voice are not present, because they are, okay? It's just the right now, what I'm being shown is the intensity of the pain, of the heartbreak, that you've been feeling, the heart shattering, is so intense and great that it's the thing that's taking up most of your awareness. And any part of your awareness that's left over, it's creating a bit of a block, to use an overused word. So I can just see that's getting in the way with that. So know that it's there, and know that, I want you to know that in time you'll be able to reconnect with that again. It's not gone anywhere, and it's just a matter of finding some relief for the pain that you feel. Okay. Look at John. I think John was a fellow, a very open fellow, very easygoing. He was a bit keen. He's very enthusiastic to be in relationship with you. I do get some nervousness around him, and he was quite unsure on how to deal with, where you were at, of course. He's a man who's had his heart broken before, which, gosh, who hasn't? That's not that intuitive, but I can just see across his heart. So he's quite, I'd say that's his heart's been broken. He's quite protected in his heart area. And what I want you to trust, Susan, is that John came in your life and you've pushed him away as you describe it. So I'll call that him coming in and going out of your life, okay? And I know you've got some confusion, but what I want you to trust is right now that he is not the right connection for you right now. I'm not going to talk about the future, but I'm talking about right now because we know it's not right now because that's what's happened. So moving forward in the future, I do believe that John still thinks of you and he's just kind of waiting and seeing what's happening. I feel like he checks in, if not physically, then energetically. I feel his thoughts going in your direction. I believe he's got other people interested in him, but he's not wanting to pursue those relationships because he's wanting to be on his own, and he's also got an affection for you. So that's what's holding him back from other relationships. And that's okay. That's his process. That's okay. He's okay. I'm just looking at your confusion and how we're going to shift. I'm going to ask your spiritual team to help me help you. The first message I get is you need to rest, and may I even say nurture yourself, as is the theme of today's show. You need to rest, Susan. You need to rest. I feel like you need some form of, and I'm not a doctor, I'm not prescribing, but I'm seeing drops going in your mouth. So, and I am working, so I'm seeing possibly something like homeopathics or naturopathy. So something where you're taking some drops, it may even be the Australian bush flower essences, or perhaps the bark flower. I just see some essences going in your body. You're taking them, and this will help your whole system to relax. So I see that happening, and that's really important because what I want you to do, I want you to go and have a full physical, it's always important when we're as stressed as you are, to have a full physical review. There's nothing wrong, don't have a heart attack, there's nothing wrong with your body. I'm not predicting anything there. But, when we're that anxious and stressed, it's important sometimes to go to our doctors and just have our blood counts done and check that our thyroid levels are okay and hormone levels are okay and all that kind of thing. That's what I say to all my clients. We always start at the physical. We use the wonders of modern medicine to, I'm not pro alternative medicine and anti modern traditional medicine or contemporary medicine, because I believe in the power and the miracles and the magnificence of both types of medicine, okay? So I always encourage my clients who are feeling as stressed as you are to go and have your full medical review because we want to eliminate anything physical that's contributing, so like a bit of a tricky hormone level or a bit of a tricky thyroid or something like that. I'm sure you'll come up clear, but it's just a really good thing to cover first, okay? Then look physically what you can do to support your body around the stress you're feeling. So that's your vitamins and minerals, that's your homeopathics, that's those kind of supplements. Have a think about that, okay? The other thing I want to talk to you about moving forward is that the combination of that process and rest. You also need to have lots of more healthier food into your body. They're showing me, gosh, we're all on the physical today with you, Susan. A lot more healthier food going in. And Susan, I want to spend more time with you, which means that Leanne, you've posted a message on my page, my page. And so what I'm going to do with you, Leanne, is I'm going to talk to you in the next show, okay? Because I want to spend the last couple of minutes with Susan. So, Susan. Yes, so I just want to see what I need to say to you about your intuitive, moving forward. Yeah, there's all this stuff about your body. I see a male person for you in your future. Okay, this is a kind and caring man, a very still type of personality. He's not complicated. He's very reserved, but will speak. He's more reserved than extroverted, but has a huge heart and has a huge desire to receive and experience nurturing connection with someone. He's a good thinker. He's a very sexual person, which is great. Yay. And what I call a sensualist, which is wonderful. And I'll have to do a whole show on sensual love. So he's there for you. I see there's a bit of time between now and then. I'm looking at the number 3. They're giving me 3, so it's 3 months, 3 weeks, that kind of thing. It's certainly not 3 years. But he's literally sitting in your future. There's nothing you have to do other than look after yourself and nurture yourself. That is it. Nurture yourself in the way that you want a partner to nurture you, okay? I am getting L as an initial. May or may not be correct, but I'm just going to give that to you. And I'm getting a pineapple, so I've got no idea what that means. So I'm assuming that's got something to do. Is that to do with this fellow? Yes, it's got something to do with him. That's weird. Who knows? You'll have to tell me. So yeah, that's what I see for you, Susan. So I do see a new love in your life. I do feel this person is very healthy and very connected, very sensual, and very much what you need. And I want you just to be looking after yourself until the time comes that both of you, your paths cross and you make that connection. You don't have to do anything, go anywhere, or be anything other than look after yourself. And this experience will flow into your life is how I see it via prediction. We're coming up. I hope that's been helpful, Susan, and you've waited patiently. Leanne, I will definitely be getting to you in my next show. I want to thank every single one of you for listening to the show today. It's been an absolute pleasure to sit here in my home and be of service to you. I hope for you that you have a wonderful week, and I want you to look at your relationships, look at yourself, and find ways that you can nurture yourself and those that you care about. You're listening to I Am Wisdom. This is Katrina Kavanagh, and have a wonderful, wonderful series of moments. Bye-bye.